I'm back to talk more about Comic-Con the Cruise. This time I'm going to be focusing on the activities, shows, and other events that were happening on board the ship. Obviously, I couldn't attend everything, so most of the video and footage that I captured is going to be from events that I personally attended. I'll try to talk a little bit about other stuff that was going on, but for the most part, this is going to be tailored towards my personal interests. Hopefully, this will give you an idea of the vibe, what there was to do, the different types of activities and events that were going on. And of course, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask in the comments, and I'll try to answer to the best of my ability. One thing I feel is important to note is that the ship capacity was much higher than the actual amount of passengers on the ship. The actual attendance was closer to 1,500, which I think was intentional because they wanted to keep it more intimate and they wanted to keep it more of a smaller event so that you could really, have a good time and enjoy things. For the most part, there were really no lines. There's not a lot of crowding, and you can attend pretty much anything you want to because there's space. There's space for you to attend what you want. That really affected the vibe of the ship. And to be honest, there were a lot of times where I would be walking around, like, say, the pool deck or the buffet and being like, where the heck is everyone? Because I think, or I assume, that all of these people were attending panels. And so when you have all these people tucked away in different panel rooms like the Safari Club or the Centrum Stage or the Tropical Theater, then you won't see them out and about at the pool deck or at the buffet because they are actually attending events. And I think you'll see from the footage that I'm going to be sharing with you that a lot of these events had very high participation. So people were attending these events, people wanted to go to these events, and I think overall, these panels, shows, all of it was very successful. Even though I wouldn't go again, I do think that it was a good time and I definitely don't regret attending. On boarding the ship, we got a Comic-Con the Cruise bag, we got a postcard, we got advertisements for Comics Kingdom, Comic-Con Museum, and Rock Love. We got a Flash Gordon coaster and a lanyard for our Sea Pass, a souvenir program, and a pamphlet about the exhibitors and the Artist Alley. Lastly, we got an orange Comic-Con the Cruise shirt. If you wore your orange shirt to the Comic-Con the Cruise Sail Away t-shirt party hosted by Felicia Day, you would receive free drinks, and yes, that included beer and wine. On day 1, there were cruise orientations with cruise directors Jess and Ashley. After that was the Meet the Artists of Artist Alley panel hosted by Rob Perlman, featuring Afua Richardson, Sarah Meyer, Marcus Williams, and more. Later that evening was a live art demo with Bob Ross Inc. on the Centrum Stage. At 7:30, we stopped by Dueling Pianos with Brian Wilk and Brad Herron, which was a ton of fun. The main evening show was Hollywood Squares, featuring 9 different celebrity guests, and they pulled 2 audience members on stage to participate. After that, I headed to the Funky Bones Blacklight Party, which was so much fun. I really enjoyed their set. Night 2 was all about celebrating sci-fi. I attended the Celebrating Sci-Fi and Television panel with George Takei, Greg Grunberg, Ethan Embry, and Amy Jo Johnson, hosted by Felicia Day. I don't remember what panel this was, but at some point, people pulled out lightsabers and started having a lightsaber battle. On day 2, the main show of the evening was Comic-Con Feud, Star Wars vs. Star Trek. The Star Trek team captain was George Takei, while the Star Wars team captain was Warwick Davis. Each team also featured 4 cosplayers pulled from the audience. At 11 p.m., I headed to the Tropical Theater for big screen overdub with Felicia Day and friends. Day 3 was all about cosplay, but first we had our stop in Cozumel, Mexico. For my excursion, I chose a tour of a cacao company, Mayan ruins, and we had a quick stop at the beach. Once I was back on the ship, I attended a cosplay Q&A panel with Yaya Han and Cowbutt Crunchies. The main show that evening was the Action Figures live in concert. This celebrity Comic-Con band included Amy Jo Johnson, Greg Grunberg, Ethan Embry, and Felicia Day. At 10 p.m., you could go to the Colossal Cosplay Costume Party featuring Funky Bones. Right after that was the Colossal Cosplay Costume Contest. The 3 categories were Carbon Copy, Most Creative, and Judge's Choice. There was a huge crowd in attendance at the cosplay contest, and the judge's choice winner was determined by the audience. I was so impressed at how many people decided to cosplay, and I really regretted not bringing an outfit myself. Afterwards, we checked out cosplay karaoke, and I was so excited to see the Star-Lord cosplayer performing Hooked on a Feeling. On day 4, I attended the George Takei panel in the Tropical Theater. Then I headed over to the match game featuring Rekha Sharma, Greg Grunberg, and Ted Lang. This is another event where they pulled audience members on stage to participate. The main show on day 4 was Comic-Con Live. This was like a variety show where they pulled audience members on stage to participate in different games and activities. While I don't have video of this, there was a surprise proposal on stage which was super cute. Finally, I briefly stopped by Cartoon Karaoke, hosted by Bob Bergen. In addition to all of that, there were so many things that I just didn't get around to filming or photographing. For example, I went to the sci-fi trivia, and that was really fun, even though I was terrible at it. I went to the superhero trivia, which I was better at, but I still was nowhere near winning. It did even get very heated at times because some of the questions were ambiguous, and people were kind of arguing about the meaning of the questions. They also had live music in the Comics Kingdom Tavern and live music in other venues as well, so you could just go chill, have a drink, listen to some live music. They had scavenger hunts, they had an egg drop, they had, you could go get your makeup done by Thomas Suprenant, and he would, paint your face and do makeup for you. And the other thing that they had was voiceover workshops. They had yoga in the morning and so many other things that I just can't think of at the top of my head. But there was a lot of stuff to do. And I mean, it didn't matter what you were into. You could probably find something that interested you. Before I went on the cruise, one of my biggest concerns was that on paper, it seemed like I wasn't the target audience for this cruise. I didn't know a lot of the talent that was going to be in attendance. I didn't know much about the shows and movies and comics that they had, like Flash Gordon or Battlestar Galactica, and I was afraid that I wouldn't enjoy it because I didn't know much about those properties. It was a whole different story. It actually didn't matter whether I knew who anyone was because, it was like games like Family Feud and Match Game and Hollywood Squares, and it was mostly just fun stuff that anyone could relate to. And I thought that was awesome. I guess what I'm trying to say is it was a great time. I didn't expect it to be as fun as it was, and I really did enjoy myself, and I absolutely do not regret going. And while I won't go again next year, it's just too far and too expensive, I think it's still really fun. If you have any other questions, please let me know. And thanks for watching.